Let's get a little bit into crypto because I have problems with crypto. Not problems with crypto. I think that some certain projects in crypto are going to be successful that I understand to my knowledge of crypto. For example, like NFTs that give access to events or give access to certain things, or NFT ticket sales for
I'm gonna make a comparison, and the reason I'm laughing is I'm gonna make a comparison, and the crypto community will probably like murder me.
But where I get to the problem with crypto for me specifically is what we were just talking about. How do you put a valuation on a cryptocurrency? How do you value a cryptocurrency that's not producing you anything?
Yeah. Well, I think so like let's go back a little bit again. So for people kind of watching this, crypto is now being looked at as an alternative investment. So it's like private equity or venture capital. And it's something that's going to take a little more analysis, I think, from that point. And I think if you look at history, for example, when we were in the dot-com bubble, there were thousands of internet names. And this is kind of similar, I think.
I agree.
But maybe the crypto community would disagree with that comparison, but I think it's kind of similar. You had thousands of internet companies that were not producing cash flow. People were looking at metrics like visits to the website and clicks on the website, whatever. And ultimately, what that led to was a lot of overvaluation, which I think we're seeing the same thing in crypto. However, I do think that there will be some projects, probably very few.
I would say 50% of 1%,
yes.
0.5%.
I agree. I think that to try to pick those projects is very difficult. I think this goes back to kind of the same thing that we're saying. Pick the ones that you understand, that you know people understand, and that the general trend of people are following. So, for example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, some of the foundation of which crypto is built on, and I think those will perform. I'm not gonna make a judgment on the performance over the next 5 years, but I think they'll perform well relative to the other projects that nobody knows about unless you're really into that world. And even if you do have a project that blows up, what are the odds of you picking that success? It's like gambling. Which is why
it is. But my question here is, because, for example, for Bitcoin or Ethereum, sure, they're the ones that people know the most, but they're not producing you cash flows. That's what I'm getting at. Like if I invest and I buy 1 Bitcoin, in 10 years that's going to be 1 Bitcoin.
100%.
If I invest in a company, it costs me maybe $1 million today if I'm investing in a small business or I'm in private equity, and that business is generating me maybe $250,000 in profit a year. In 10 years, I'm going to be able to have compounded that growth of that company, where instead of having 1 factory, I might have 4 factories. So you understand, like, that's growing because of the cash flows. I can't see that with Bitcoin.
So I think let's make the clear distinction here, though. Obviously, crypto it's not a company, it's not a stock, it's a currency. The success of crypto and Bitcoin is going to be based on whether or not people use that currency to purchase goods or to purchase something that produces cash flow. So, for example, right now we're seeing the metaverse, right? If they start to apply some of these crypto names and you can get digital goods on the metaverse, now that's producing cash flow for the metaverse. If they can go and turn around and use that Bitcoin to produce real dollars, right? But
I understand.
This gets starts getting way more complex, right?
I understand that, but this is where I have my concern, because then those businesses in the metaverse are going to be creating cash flows. But this would be like, the way I see it, because I've had that argument, I've talked to people that are in the crypto space. I'm like, why not just invest in those companies that are creating those digital goods that are selling them instead of investing in Bitcoin? Because I would see it like this. That would be like saying invest in the US dollar instead of investing in Amazon. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think
if you get where I'm going.
I understand, but I think that the value of crypto is not only that, it's also the technology, right? And that's the argument. That would be the argument to make. I'm not necessarily on that side. But I think from somebody that, let's say, that is really into crypto would say, well, okay, but you have the blockchain, and this makes it a lot more. There's security. There's no It can't.
Which I think the blockchain is an amazing technology, and there's gonna be businesses that are gonna be on the blockchain that are gonna be very.
And this is the main point, right? With U.S. dollars, how we're seeing right now, the Federal Reserve can print unlimited amounts of U.S. dollars. In theory. With Bitcoin, there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin that can be mined. So the person would say the value would hold up better than the US dollar because there's a limited supply. Exactly. And there's a limited supply. Once the last Bitcoin is mined, there will be no more circulation, no new circulating Bitcoin in theory.
I think I understand that argument too, but I also think there's pros and cons for that. For having something that you have a limited supply, compared to the dollar, because I think that a healthy amount of inflation. I understand why, for example, the Fed goes for 2% inflation a year, right? It stimulates spending, stimulates growth. I think that, just because the dollar is getting devalued like through time, doesn't mean that the economy is not growing, because economy growing is actually irrelevant from the currency itself. It's just the gross domestic product that's being produced, right? It's the products that are being produced every single year. But I think it has its pros and it has its cons, right? Having a limited supply, you can't. Let's say you have a limited supply and now there's a concentrated amount of Bitcoin in one person, right? There's going to be even more inequality, and there's going to be more inequality than
and they can manipulate the price, right?
They can manipulate.
If somebody holds a large supply of the circulating Bitcoin, they could essentially sell and price.
At that point, it actually becomes, I think, more centralized than decentralized.
It's definitely an argument to have and a debate to have. I do think, though, one thing that I do have strong conviction is that, for example, there have been ideas floated around about social welfare. So, for example, the way we do it now with Social Security, right? They have what's called, or they don't have it, but the idea, actually, they might have it. Who knows? I would have to do more research on it. But what's called programmable money, which is, I think, a super interesting concept for the future.
I don't know about that. Tell me a little bit.
So essentially what this is this would be like a cryptocurrency. It hits your phone, and you can only use it for certain things. And this is a better way, in my opinion, to control the way we give out welfare checks. Because, for example, we just pump a bunch of money into the economy, but people can go and use that for anything they want.
Like I saw this guy that he got his student loans and he bought himself a Lamborghini.
Exactly, yeah. It's like ridiculous shit. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous shit. Yeah. But, like, if you go and you say, okay, we have programmable money, you can only use it for groceries. Yeah. And then a grocery, like Publix, only takes that programmable money, and that's it. I think that's a very super interesting idea, and those type of applications would, from the crypto side, they would argue, say, look at how useful that is for a society, let's say. Yeah. And I think it is very useful because that can control things like inflation, and help them kind of rein in all these problems that we have. Okay. So I do think there is
that makes sense to me. But I still don't see it as an investment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like that makes sense to me. That could be. It has a lot of use to it, but so does a U.S. dollar. I don't see a U.S. dollar as an investment either.
Exactly.
I like something that creates me cash flow. So I understand the use cases, but I actually went to a conference like a couple of months ago, and there was some interesting things there that I saw, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I think the businesses that are going to be in the blockchain, those are the ones that you want to invest in, right? It could be a cryptocurrency project. For example, like if an artist, right, starts selling his tickets as NFTs, I've seen that example, or he has a concert now on the metaverse, right, where I think it was Justin Bieber or somebody had a concert on the metaverse, and there was 12 million people that showed up, right? You can't have that in a regular stadium. So now, so it's impossible. So look at the reach of people that you can have now by having a concert on the metaverse, and now you can, if you're investing into that NFT, now you can get a percentage of the ticket sales. That makes sense to me. You get me? Because now I can measure the amount of cash flows or that.
I think another interesting point on the crypto thing is that I think I mean, I don't know, maybe some of the more intelligent or more experienced investors are also betting on people, because if you have followed the trend,
you can invest in people now. You can invest in celebrities.
And I'm talking about we've been watching trends now of a talent exodus on Wall Street into crypto focused companies. Yeah. And these are very highly talented people that are very intelligent, understand the way money works, understand the way society works, and they're putting a lot of human capital to work on how do we make this generate cash flow. Yeah. So I think that if you want it, like from the other standpoint, you can say, well, crypto is a project. It doesn't make cash flow now, but if these people figure out that problem and how they can create cash flow, then it blows up and you have more applicable uses. It's a better technology. It's easier to control. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. XYZ, all the pros to it. You can make an argument as well. I'm not necessarily on that side, but I think it's interesting.
I agree with that. I agree with that but this is, okay, like, I agree with that 100%. I think there's going to be projects, there's going to be businesses that are going to be crypto businesses that are going to produce cash flows. Yeah. They might be a business that you invest in that's going to produce you a certain amount of Bitcoin every single month, and it's an actual business, not a pyramid scheme like a lot of the ones we've seen or scams, right? It's going to be actual businesses that have use cases and produce you that Bitcoin. But when now you're investing in Bitcoin, you buy one Bitcoin, that's never going to produce you more Bitcoin. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So it's always going to be like the currency, which a currency should not be volatile. It should not be going up in value. I understand that, okay, yeah, it's deflationary, there's a limited supply, and that's why it's going to go up in value or whatnot. But as a currency, it eventually going to have to stabilize.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I say, okay, the businesses, their investments in crypto are not going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're going to be the businesses that are created on Bitcoin or Ethereum that are producing you cash flows or producing you more Ethereum and Bitcoin. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, sure. That's my argument there, because I like to invest in things that I know that I'm going to get cash flows and I can compound the growth here.
I agree, and I think in general, like as a good rule of thumb, for example, I mean, if you know nothing about crypto, don't invest maybe 1% of your total net worth.
Yeah.
As like a speculative investment, because that's what it is really. Like, this is unproven. It's not producing cash flow, as Manny points out. It's something that still has it's a new technology. Even if it's been around for 20 years, it's still a new technology. So treat it that way. Don't just jump in like head first without knowing.
Yeah.